Now, the Origin Effects guys have been making amp-in-a-box pedals for a long time, all analog, but I really think this Deluxe 55 is their best one yet. It feels alive, it feels real. On the left, we have Universal Audio's take on the Tweed Deluxe. It's called the Woodrow, and it is a Tweed Deluxe in a digital form. It's got a little bit more bells and whistles to it, but it still comes out in very Tweed-like tones. So I think a lot of us are figuring out which one is more authentic. I'm gonna tell you right now before you even listen, they're both authentic, they both sound like Tweeds. It really just depends on what do you want out of your pedal, right? The obvious difference is that one is digital and one is analog. But the other difference is that there's like just different use cases for what you want out of your sound. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna play the Deluxe 55 through an IR, and then I'm gonna go through one of the speaker sims, and then we're gonna try to compare them on the same IR, so it's like apples to apples. And then we're gonna compare like the crunch and the heavy and the edge of breakup. And then we'll go through like the little bells and whistles that the Woodrow has, and then the kind of sneaky stuff that the Deluxe 55 can do as well. I got a nice edge of breakup sound, and I'm going into Origin Effects free IR. They released 3 free IRs of their Tweed Deluxe cabinet. I'm just going direct into that from the Deluxe 55 right now. Love it. It's so good. I'm going to use both volume knobs. You can simulate it without the channels being jumpered, but I'm going to use both because that's really what they use to capture the energy here. And then I'm going to use the high input channel because when you go all the way up here, it simulates low input, but I'm just going to go into the high input channel. I feel like that's like the same tones that we're going for, okay? Also sounds like a Tweed Deluxe. And the speaker sim that I'm using is, what is that? It's a Celestian Blue, a 15-watt Celestian Blue. Darker than the stock speaker, but I feel like it has the same characteristics of the IR. It's got a nice amount of low end, so I feel like that. Now, do you hear that little kind of tone at the end there? That's what the Woodrow, it gives this really interesting. Again, I talked about this in my original review of the Woodrow. It's got a fizziness and it's got like a dirtiness to it, right? It's got this rough edge on it. The Deluxe 55 is just much smoother sounding. Listen. See, it's got that same kind of little fizziness, but it's not like the roughness. It's so. Here, let me just turn off the cab sim here so we can do. Can you see? It's like they're so close. They both sound great. So, you know, it really just depends on kind of what you're going for here. Let me show you neck pickup stuff. It's kind of like, do you want foie gras or do you want cassoulet? I'm like, either's fine for me. Okay, let's push it hard. great ripping sound, right? They're both reacting in similar ways, right? They're not really clean machines, and that's not why you're gonna buy a Tweed style pedal, right? You want that grit, you want that growl. This is a preference thing, but the Deluxe 55 just feels more present. It's more upfront, it's more in your face. Whereas the simulation in the Woodrow, it's not that it doesn't sound like a Tweed, it really does, but it just has a different kind of like, it sits weirder in the mix, right? It sits a little bit further back in the mix. It doesn't mean that it can't be mixed into a track or mixed live. It does sound great, but that comes down to like preference. How present do you want that sound? How immediate do you want that? There's a little bit more latency on the Woodrow. You probably won't be able to tell after you play it for like 5 minutes. I mean, we're talking milliseconds here. So I'm not saying you can't feel it. I can feel it, but like, it probably won't get in your way. It really doesn't get in my way. One of the tricks that the Deluxe 55 has, you can switch it to the 12AX7 mode, which is a high gain mode, and it's a lot darker too. So let's crank that bad boy. The Woodrow kind of has that trick, but you do it with boost. Whoa. So as you can see, like a lot more roughness on the Woodrow, right? And that really shows there. And a lot of that comes from their cab sims. So if you like that sound, you can really only get that through a cab sim. Theoretically, you can also buy the aux stomp, and then you can run this into an aux stomp, and then you kind of get the best of both worlds. Or you can just run into an IR loader, whatever you want to do. So the cab sims are something that this has that kind of can quickly change the character. This is a Bassman 4x10. This is the Bassman 4x10 cab sim. This is a Bassman IR from York Audio, one of my favorite IRs that there is. So you're not gonna be left in the dust if you don't have that speaker sim. You can buy that York Audio Bassman IR and you can get a very similar sound. You can get that Bassman sound. Now the last trick that the Deluxe 55 has is that you can put it in front of your amp and change your amp to sound like a Deluxe 55. Whereas with the Woodrow, you can really only put it into the return of your FX loop, right? Because it doesn't play nice going in front of an amp. It just sounds kind of weird, and I'll show you right now. Now I got my Fender Blues Jr. I mic'd it with the SM7B. The cool thing about the Deluxe 55, this is for like a Fender style amp. When you switch it over here, it's for a Marshall style amp. And it like has a filter, right? And then you can change it a little bit lighter or darker on that profile as well. So there's a lot of different like tweaking you can do to get it to fit exactly how you want your amp to sound. See, that's not... You see what I'm saying? It's like, that doesn't really sound like it's melding with the amp. It sounds like it's trying to like push through the amp, which is why it really only works if you put it in the effects loop, and then it would sound just like it normally sounds, into like a direct signal into whatever speaker cab you have, right? So let me try to find a good... I know the Woodrow is a great digital recreation, but the Deluxe 55 just speaks to me more, right? I mean, like, I don't have like a scientific thing. I'm not gonna pull out a chart, right? This is just for me and what my ears are hearing. The Deluxe 55 is just what I wanna hear. And I'm not saying I wouldn't play a Woodrow. I own it, I love it. That's a great pedal. If I could only get one, I would get the Deluxe 55. Now, your needs might be different than my needs, so use your discretion, right? I'm not saying throw out the Woodrow. Like, I'm not saying no one should play it. You should play what you want to play. Another great benefit of the Woodrow, stereo in, stereo out. So if you're using it for live work, using it for studio work, it has that added benefit and it's already built in. It also has a great room reverb built in when you're recording direct or you're going straight to the PA during a show, straight to the mixer. It can give you that cool kind of early reflection sound that you want. Now, some of you might see this as a drawback too. The UAFX pedals have an app and you got to go through the app. You can scroll. There's great presets in there from like top artists and top musicians. So you can find something to like there too, and you can save your own presets. You can go back and forth between a bunch of presets. So there are other cool benefits technology-wise, but sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes I don't want to be fiddling with an app and waiting for the Bluetooth to connect. I know a lot of people have complained about that. I've almost lost my mind trying to connect these pedals to Bluetooth, but for some other people it works great for them, so I'm thrilled. You can save your presets here. It's really easy. You just click down and it saves it as the preset. So I'm not trying to discount that. There's so many more features on the Woodrow, and if that's what you're into, if you want a lot of features, like that's the pedal. But if you have a rig that's already working and you want like the Tweed pedal just for like to work within your rig or to record direct, like that to me is just very straightforward. It's very easy to dial in good sounds. So the other thing about I'm remembering this right now, it's kind of hard to dial in the sound you want on the Woodrow. Like you don't get the sound right away. You gotta keep twiddling and mix between high input, low input, jumpered, not jumpered. There's a lot of options there. Whereas here, it's just like, want more gain, less gain, brighter, darker. And like that's that. Set the tone, set the output, and you're off to the races. And if you want to see me lose my mind, in the original Woodrow video, I was losing it because it was so hard to dial in the sounds that I wanted. I also was using the Silver Sky SE, which probably wasn't the best guitar for that review. This Telecaster is actually a much better guitar to review a Tweed style pedal. I think these pedals just want a Tele. If you want to watch all the other Tweed style videos I've made, here's a playlist with the Deluxe 55 video, the Woodrow video, and the Magma 57, which is kind of based on the Tweed as well. Thanks so much guys, and I'll see you out there on the internet.